Could you survive the night and make it until dawn? And do you even want to? Let's talk about the new Sony horror film, Until Dawn. Hey everyone, it's David Stark from Watcher Pass. I'm here to talk about Until Dawn, which is coming to theaters on April 25th, 2025. It is the new horror film that is based on the video game. It's a Sony horror film based on a Sony PlayStation 4, then 5 video game. Is this adaptation worth your time? Is this worth watching? My hot take is I think you should watch later. This is a high watch later. I actually was kind of in between a watch now and watch later. I really actually enjoyed this. It was a surprisingly enjoyable horror movie that had a fun premise, some good effects, nice variety. I liked it. It's not great. It has a lot of the like downsides of some horror movies, but overall, I was much happier with this movie than I expected to be. I thought it was not going to be good at all. I went to it because I love Until Dawn. It's one of my favorite PlayStation games of all time. It's basically an interactive horror movie. If you like horror, you haven't played Until Dawn or The Quarry, do yourself a favor, play them both. They're both fantastic. Until Dawn is the first game. The Quarry is like a spiritual successor by the same company that did Until Dawn. So they are both fantastic. They are wonderful games. This is an enjoyable movie. I liked it. I went to a marathon screening where I tried to stay up Until Dawn. It was a total of 12 hours. I did not make it all the way. I fell asleep through like the fourth viewing of it, but I watched it enough and still enjoyed it. So I think you should eventually check it out. It's really between a watch now and watch later. It's not great, but it is a lot of fun. So in my ultimate recommendation, I think you should wait for it to come to streaming or on demand. But if you do see it in theaters, if you're a horror fan, if you like the game, you'll probably have a good time. So all that being said, I'm gonna tell you about the film, a few things I like, a few things I didn't like, and then really quickly go into a recap. So as you can imagine, there'll be spoilers in the recap section. If you don't know what happened to this movie, and you might not, there are some surprises along the way. There's some big reveals. I would turn off and get to the recap. Before that, though, I'll keep it vague. I'll keep it spoiler free. Let's try to get to those spoilers. So, Until Dawn is kind of like inspired by the Until Dawn video game. It has some things about the game that are in there, but not much. It feels like Until Dawn is just the title, and because of the title, some of the premise, and there's a few little things here and there, but overall this is kind of its own story. And in this story you have Clover, who is looking for her sister Melanie, who disappeared a year ago. She takes her friends out to the last place that her sister was seen to try to trace her steps and figure out where she went. But when she follows this path, it leads to some places that I don't think any of them expected. So things I liked about this movie: the first, I like the setup. It's a good kind of like traditional horror setup. You've got a missing person. They go look for her. Stuff happens when they get to this like strange destination. It's a good setup. You got a nice set of friends. You got all the makings of what you would want for a fun horror movie, and it shows. So the second thing I love the cast. It's a fun cast. I hadn't really heard of many of them, but they do a good job. They are entertaining. There's enough variety in the cast members, and although not as much as I was hoping for, but there's enough variety, and so they kind of like keep the movie fun and entertaining. The third thing I love the effects. Really good effects, good practical effects, good bloody effects. It's a horror movie. You would hope that they would err on that side, and they do. There are some very gory situations. There are some very kind of over the top kills. And hey, look, if you're a horror fan, it's perfect. The fourth thing I love the variety. There is some variety in the premise here. You get some different kinds of genres, a lot of different kills, a lot of variety in the kills, which I liked. So, look, it's kind of like has a Groundhog Day-esque feel to it. Not exactly, but kind of similar to that, and so that kind of helps keep the story moving and help keep it different. And the last thing I loved, there are some callbacks to the video game. Like I said, I loved Until Dawn. There's a few things here and there, a little reference here, a little reference there. There's probably more that I didn't catch, but you catch a few, and so there's enough of a tie-in that you're like, okay, like I get why they called this Until Dawn, but as you're going, as you're seeing the things I didn't love, not enough. So all that being said, things I didn't love as much. The first, there's some pretty bad decisions. It's a horror movie, you're gonna get some bad decisions, but there are some monumentally bad decisions in this movie. Again, if you're gonna have all good decisions, you're not gonna have interesting kills, but there were some that you're like, why would you do that? It's okay. It's fine. It's a horror movie, but there are some mind-numbingly bad decisions. Second thing I didn't love, there's some not great dialogue. Some of the interactions feel a little bit forced. Like I said, I like the cast. They're fun, but I think, some of them are hampered by the dialogue choices here. And also, there's a lot of profanity. I'm okay with profanity, but they reuse certain profane words over and over again. It gets repetitive, it gets obnoxious at some points. Maybe that's how the kids these days speak, but to me it felt like they were kind of like forcing edge into this movie. The third thing I didn't love as much, I'm gonna say no justification. Like there is some, but it doesn't feel as tight as I was hoping for. You get enough of a premise here to have the experiences in Until Dawn, but at the end of the day, you're like, why was it doing these things? And they didn't really tell you. And the last thing I didn't love as much, I'll call it inspired by Until Dawn. This is very much a movie that like is inspired by, has, like I said, a couple references here and there to Until Dawn, but this is not a remake of the video games. This is not even kind of based on the video games, it seems. This is its own story that has some references to the video game to give you enough of a tie-in so they can call it Until Dawn. So, all that being said, Until Dawn comes to theaters on April 25th, 2025. Like I said, I think you should watch it later. I liked it. I thought it was very enjoyable. I enjoyed it a lot more than I expected to. Ultimately, I think it's a watch later. It was really between a watch now, watch later. I could have gone either way. And if you like horror, if you like the video game, if you just want like a fun, entertaining, gory horror movie, you know what? Check it out. You won't be disappointed. I think my ultimate recommendation though is you should wait for it to come to streaming or on demand. So, all that being said, I'm gonna really quickly go into a recap right now. So if you see it, let me know what you think. Let me know what you liked and didn't like. I'd love to hear it. And I'm gonna really quickly go into a recap right now. So if you don't know what happens in this movie, I would turn it off now because there will be spoilers. So, like I said, Clover is looking for her sister who disappeared on a trip to New York. Their mother died a year ago, and her sister needed a change, and so she packed up, went to New York, and wasn't heard from since. Now, Clover goes on a road trip with her group of friends, somewhat diverse, although not as diverse as I was expecting. They go to the place where her sister Melanie left the last message. Now, the friends are Clover, who's the main character, Max, who is an ex-boyfriend who's clearly still in love with her, Megan, who is the Asian one who is like a psychic as well. She's fun. She seems to have like psychic abilities, very light psychic abilities, although they ebb and flow. There's Nina, who is a longtime friend. I guess she feels a little bit more like crunchy granola. And then there's Abe, who's kind of the new person. He is Nina's boyfriend, and he is, I don't know, I guess in most movies he'd be kind of like the jock. So that is their group of friends. They're all looking for Melanie. Now they head to a gas station where where her last like video message was sent, and there Clover encounters an attendant there who says that people are always disappearing from this place called Glore Valley. So they all head to Glory Valley, but it's raining. It's a terrible storm. Abe is driving. He's like annoyed by the rain. He can't see anything. But eventually, when they get to the Glory Valley Welcome Center, all of a sudden, like the weather clears up. And it's like a stark contrast. It's essentially like the rain literally stops at like a wall when they get to this Welcome Center. So the clearing is all clear, and you look around and there's rain all around them. So already something seems off. Now they explore the Welcome Center, and eventually Abe finds a bunch of missing posters, and one of them is Melanie. Now, when he pulls down the paper that shows Melanie, they notice some things start to happen. An hourglass that was upside down turns back over somehow, and sand starts pouring from it, indicating some sort of countdown. Nina had written her name in the guest book of this welcome center. And when she scrolls back, she sees that other people have written their name over and over again. And as like the days progress, or as the name gets written again, it becomes more and more illegible. Like the person is like withering away, essentially. One of the people on there is Melanie Paul, Clover's sister. And so she sees that Melanie signed it, and as the days went on, or as the like time she signed it went on, it became more and more legible. They also notice that their car is missing. Abe's car that he was driving is now missing. So they're stuck here. Eventually they hear something, and they find a like serial killer, this like masked serial killer who systematically takes them out one by one. And a couple of them fight back, but it doesn't seem like anything they do will hurt it. Like Max breaks a chair over him. He doesn't even get phased. Clover stabs him. He doesn't even get phased. Eventually, he kills all of them, and then boom, they all come back to life. And it's the next day. It's sundown, so it's right after um, Abe pulled that missing poster down. It resets to there, and everyone has like a vague memory of what happened. They remember that they died, but they don't know what is going on now. This time around, which I like that it wasn't like pure Groundhog Day, that nothing happened exactly the same. This time around, there's a little bit more supernatural. Megan, who is the more psychic kind of one, she gets possessed and tells everyone to not let anyone in, which they immediately don't do. Clover then hears a knock on the door and is like gonna go open it, and Abe's like, "No, don't do it." And then she hears what sounds like Megan on the other side yelling for her and then getting brutally attacked. So Clover can't handle this. Max, being the hero who likes Clover, goes and opens the door, and Clover looks out and no one's there. You're like, of course no one's there. It's of course it was a trap. But that then they notice across the street there's a new house, some sort of like dilapidated old house that says F the Glore Witch on it. And then Clover gets pulled towards it by some invisible force. Everyone closes the door, everyone freaks out, but Max, seeing as he still really likes Clover and wants to like impress her, goes after her. So after Max goes after her, Nina and Abe try to escape. The car is there this time. It didn't disappear. And so they get into the car, they try to drive away, they drive out into the rain, but they stop because there is a giant like monster out in the horizon that looks at them. And I was like, that's a little lame. Maybe that is from Until Dawn. I don't remember if that was something from Until Dawn. It was a little bit lame. It would have been nicer if they would have just like driven out into the rain and then like eventually like drove right back into the welcome center, almost like they couldn't leave. That would have been a nicer way to kind of like signal it. The monster just seemed a little weird, but they realize they can't leave. They come back and eventually they get killed by the serial killer. Now meanwhile, Clover, who was pulled into that dilapidated house, meets this witch who eventually like possesses her. And so Clover then becomes possessed by the witch. When Max goes in to help her, it's this creepy room with like all these like weird masks there. Max eventually gets startled because he sees Clover wearing a mask. It looks very creepy, and then she slits his throat and Max dies. Now Clover, the like possessed witch, then goes outside, but she is killed by the serial killer. It resets. So the third time, they try to just survive the night. Before Clover gets possessed, the witch says basically there's only one way out: survive the night or become part of it. So basically, if you just don't survive the night, you'll become, I don't know, trapped here, I guess, into eternity. Something bad will happen. Now, the third time, they then say, hey, let's just survive the night. They hole up in a bathroom and just try to wait it out. But eventually, they drink some water from the sink because they're all thirsty from dying. And this water causes them all to explode in a grisly and pretty funny way. Like, it is so over the top that the theater was laughing when this happened. And they all explode, except right before Clover explodes. She sees the man from the gas station. He's whistling. He comes up to her and says, you can't survive by hiding. And then she explodes. So this time around, this is their fourth time. Clover decides they need to find some answers. So they start looking for some info. And we find out some more info about this town. I guess about 20 years ago, the entire town sunk into the ground, killing 100,000 or killing 1,100 people. And you're like, how would this group not know about this? Like, it's not like it happened way, way far in the past. It was only 20 years ago. It was a huge disaster. You would think that someone would have mentioned it. Someone would have heard about this. None of them knew anything about, this aspect of Lore Valley. We also find out that Dr. Alan Hill was brought in to help with the trauma. He was a trauma therapist. He was there to help with the survivors. But it turns out that I guess he wanted to do experiments on these people. They find like an old VHS tape that they put into a VHS player. Now, again, I was like, how do you know how to use a VHS player? All these kids are like in college. They're like 20. I don't know if they've ever seen a VHS. How would they know how to work one? Who knows? Who knows? But they were able to put the VHS tape in and they see some of the experiments that Dr. Hill is doing. He is studying the survivors and the grief that overcomes them. And eventually they, are so overcome by the grief that they, I guess, die or something, and they keep coming back. And as they come back, their body slowly changes, it degenerates, and eventually they are transformed into a Wendigo, which is basically, a person with like some animal features. It seems like sometimes you lose your hair. They have like longer arms, and they are like very, very vicious. It is supposed to be represent like hunger, I think, extreme hunger, and so they have a extreme hunger for something, probably people. And we find out that over time, they transform into this, and I guess 11 nights is the longest that someone has survived. Now, Clover then talks to Hill on the radio and says she wants answers, and he says, "I'll give them to you, but just to you." He says he's in the woods, and so Clover then runs out to go meet him in the woods. Now, Alex and Megan want to help, but Abe is against it. They're arguing. Abe is like, she's already out there. She's gonna die. Like we can't go out. We can't risk it. And eventually, Nina kills Abe. And you're like, oh, that's a little violent. Maybe Nina could have just said, hey, no, let them go. She kills Abe, I assume, thinking he'll come back. And Max and Megan go out and try to catch up to Clover. Now, while they're in the woods, they encounter a Wendigo, and as they're running away from it, Megan trips on a like glass window that is part of the house that was sunk down into the earth when the town collapsed. And while she's on it, it's a very tense moment because the glass is slowly breaking, and that Wendigo jumps on her. They collapse into the window. They fall down, and unfortunately, Megan doesn't survive. Now Max keeps going and eventually finds Clover, who is hiding from Wendigo Melanie that she met earlier. She saw Melanie in the woods, turns around. Melanie is a Wendigo, although she still has her hair. Most of the other characters, like their hair starts to fall out as they transform into Wendigo. Not many. Melanie, she keeps her beautiful locks. Lucky girl. I would do a lot to keep my locks, but Melanie does. But she's still like a ravenous Wendigo, so she tries to attack Clover, and Clover runs away. Eventually, she's hiding, and Max finds her. And while they're there, Clover asks if everyone's okay, and Max is like, "No, no, no, Megan died." And then Clover's like, "Kill me." And you're like, "What? Why?" She's like, I don't want to make it through if one of us dies. She wants to get everyone through." And you're like, "Why would you kill her now? Try to get some more answers. Try to survive. Get some more information." Max does it anyways. He slits her throat, and then he drinks a little bit of water, goes and sees Wendigo Melanie, and explodes in front of her, which is weird. I would have thought that he would have like ran at her, tried to like bear hug her, and boom, blow up, try and maybe take out the Wendigo, do something like that. Nope, nope. He just explodes in front of her. So then they wake up, and it seems like maybe time has passed. Some of them have some of the effects of the Wendigo, although it was annoying that like they didn't all have it, and they had various levels. Poor Megan, she seemed to hit the Wendigo effects early. She started losing her hair. She became a little more gaunt. At this time, Abe realizes that he's got like some stuff growing out of his back, like some spines or something like that. But no one else really has other visible signs. You would think they would all have some pretty visible signs. They all look haggard. Some of them have like more veins exposed, but none of them look really like they are transforming that much. Earlier, Max had like some of his nails growing, but you think at this point they'd be claws. Anyways, there is a hint that they are slowly transforming, and they think it's like the fourth or fifth day, but then Nina says it is the 13th day. She looked at the guest book. There are 13 entries, and it seems like this might be their last attempt. The other guests have only gone 13 at the most, so this might be their last chance. They look at Abe's phone and realize that there's some other videos of other attempts that they had, and the last one shows that Megan went off to follow Dr. Hill after a lot of them had died. And so Megan is missing now, so they think that maybe Dr. Hill captured Megan. They decide to go on the offensive. They get weapons, and they go to the original entrance of the Welcome Center. Remember, it like collapsed down, so there was this like below ground entrance, which is weird because there's also like an above ground entrance. I don't know if they rebuilt that, but in any event, there's a below ground entrance. They go to that, they open it up, and it's like a dark corridor where you would not want to go in a horror movie. They go anyways to try to find Megan to try to all survive the night. Now, eventually, they get separated with Clover going ahead and the rest of them trying to stop the serial killer. The serial killer went through that same window that Megan had a couple nights ago gone through with the Wendigo. And it was a little silly because they reused the like glass breaking uh, footage here. It looked fine, but it was also very noticeably the same footage. So the group that stays back, which is Abe, Max, and Nina, are able to kill the serial killer, which is weird because this time they hit it with stuff and he actually gets affected. Before, they would hit it and nothing would happen. They stabbed him. Nothing happened. Now, they hit him with a chair and he goes, ah, and they hit him with something else. He goes, ah, and eventually they knock him on the ground. They all pick up this sledgehammer he was using and boom, explode his face. They don't have time to celebrate though because they have to run because more of the enemies in the area come and the Wendigos also come, so they have to run to stay ahead of them. Now, meanwhile, Clover is looking for Megan, but unfortunately finds Wendigo Melanie. And it looks like Clover is going to try to like persuade her. She's like, Mel, it's me, it's me. And then eventually she gives Wendigo Melanie a big hug, but this is all a ruse. She tackles Melanie, throws her to the ground right on top of a spike she had seen earlier. It stabs through Melanie, hurts Clover a little bit, but not too much. And Melanie is now dead. And this is a really good form tackle. I feel like the Commanders maybe want to pick her up. Maybe she could help in their upcoming season. She tackles Melanie, wraps up, throws her to the ground. Really good textbook tackle. So after this, she does find Megan. Megan is in the sanitarium, but she is locked in a room with another Wendigo. That Wendigo is chained up, but it's only a matter of time before it frees itself. So Clover goes and looks to Hill's office, trying to find the keys. And when she's in there, Hill comes to. And we see in Hill's office, we see some of the papers from various patients, including Clover, including I think Max, and maybe another one or two. But we also see a reference to Joshua Washington, who's played by Rami Malek. You see his face, you see that paper. He was in the first game, so this is a fun little callback to Until Dawn. Then Hill shows up and he explains to Clover what's happening. He says that she is kind of driving everything in here. All of the things that they have faced are her various anxieties and things like that. The serial killer one is obvious. Everyone's worried about being pursued by someone, but the witch was some thing to do with her personality. The exploding water was like her destructive tendencies, things like that. Everything was like related to something going on with Clover. As he's explaining this, Clover very sneakily moves his coffee cup over. Some drips of water drip into it from the ceiling because it's an old, dilapidated place, and she moves it back. Now, eventually, Hill picks up his coffee cup, takes a sip, and Clover's like, something about like, someone always has to die. And Clover's like, this time it's you. And that's when his tummy rumbles and he explodes, which is weird because like he's drinking coffee. You would think they would have used water for the coffee. That seems like that would have caused him to explode given the rules here. Maybe it's only like new water that's introduced. Maybe it's only water like from within the world and the coffee was somewhere else. I don't know. But in any event, Hill gets blown up. Clover gets the keys, runs to where Megan is. She opens the door just in time, frees Megan as the Wendigo frees itself from the chains, goes and attacks them, but they're able to get out and lock the Wendigo in this room. Now, Clover and Megan are running to get out of the sanitarium. Our friends Abe, Nina, and Max are all running as well. They all try to get out. Eventually, Clover and Megan are climbing up this like diagonal hallway we'd seen before, trying to get out, trying to just break free. And it seems like they do, but they get pulled back by the Wendigos pursuing them, but they keep fighting. And eventually the hand breaks through the earth because this is some sort of like underground tunnel. And wouldn't you know it, Max, Abe, and Nina are there to pull them up. They pull them out of the tunnel. Seems like everyone escaped. Seems like everyone survived. And as they're lying down, dawn breaks, and we realize that they survived until dawn. They all survived. Everyone got out of here. They jump in their cars and drive away. Now, after they drive away, we see some video cameras. We see some televisions of various cameras that were monitoring the property, and those all shift to a snowy cabin and a snow environment. I think this was maybe the environment from Until Dawn, the video game. But it shifts to that look, and we see a new car that's like a black Escalade pull up, and we hear Dr. Hill whistling the way that he was whistling before. And it seems like maybe the experiment will continue in a new location. That is Until Dawn. Like I said, I enjoyed it. It is a fun movie. It is an enjoyable horror movie. Has a fun cast, some really good effects, some nice variety. Overall, I think you should wait for it to come streaming on demand. But if you do watch it and you're a horror fan, I think you'll have a really good time. Now, during the credits, there are some fun pictures. They are all pictures, the missing posters that we saw earlier, but it seems like the missing posters were made from various people who worked on the film. You see their names and then you see the poster that represented them. I thought that was a fun touch. It kind of like lets them get their faces in there and also is like a fun little, cameo for everyone there. So that's Until Dawn. Come to theaters on April 25th, 2025. If you do check it out, let me know what you think. Let me know what you liked and didn't like. I'd love to hear it. And like I said, this was just kind of inspired by Until Dawn. Until Dawn doesn't have this like time shifting mechanic, doesn't have the like Happy Death Day feel to it. So there were, some liberties taken to make this into a movie, but I think they did a fine job. It's an enjoyable movie. I would see another story in this universe. So again, let me know what you think. Let me know what you liked and didn't like. And thanks so much for watching. If you like this review, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me a lot. Make sure all my new content goes straight to you. Thank you.